Bismillah al-Amna al-Aqdas. In the name of God, the most impregnable, the most holy. As the great quote from the Game of Thrones goes, lions are not concerned with the opinion of sheep. Nevertheless, I thought I'd make this little podcast as a response, just the general information about the fact that there are several prominent neocons, one of them who happens to live here in Germany, who are having a cow about the podcasts that are being put up by myself, and especially the podcast that Keyvan Yahya'i, Associate Professor Keyvan Yahya'i and I made. Professor Yahya'i received a telephone call today from the United States from none other than Mehdi Khalaji. Mehdi Khalaji is a self-styled dissident. He's a former HOSA student, educated also in France, but he's currently serving in the NeoCon Washington Institute for Near East Policy. And he basically called our dear Keyvan to give a piece of his mind and sort of to dissuade Keyvan from continuing this tack of his of doing interviews with me, as if it's remotely any of his business. Nevertheless, this is very interesting and very apropos, and I thought I'd put this out there, that the people who are coming out of the woodwork to raise hubris about these podcasts that are being put out are none other than the very people that I have been accusing the Baha'i Organization Incorporated of being associated with, the neoconservatives of the United States, the greatest criminals of the last 20 years, the very people responsible for starving 500,000 Iraqi children, the people responsible for the debacle of the invasion of Iraq and the destruction of that country, the people responsible for basically the creation of the Islamic State, i.e. ISIS, the people responsible for the so-called Arab Spring that turned into the Arab Nightmare. These are the people that are rallying now around the Baha'is over these, over the truth serum that, just two guys with Skype and, are basically putting out on YouTube. So this is how fragile this whole Baha'i propaganda actually is, that, just the remotest amount of criticism is taken by these neoconservatives, these neocon criminals. These people are criminals. I mean, Mehdi Khalaji in my book is a criminal. He is associated with a neoconservative think tank. He is working for the enemy of Iran. This person is unequivocally in my book, and all of its associates, Iranians or otherwise, traitors. These people are agents of imperialism, bootlickers of colonialism. They rant and rave about, the authoritarianism and oppression of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And Iran is an authoritarian state. There's no gainsaying that fact. But nevertheless, their alternative is to basically promote the likes of the Baha'is and the MEK, the Mujahideen Khalq. These are the kind of people who are having a problem now with these podcasts that we're putting out there. The other one is Bahram Choubine. Bahram Choubine lives here in Germany. I have almost zero respect for this guy. This book of his that he wrote about Mossadegh and the Baha'is is just so full of fictions that it is hilarious. So whatever he thinks about these podcasts that Keyvan and I and myself are making is his opinion, and his is the opinion of sheep. He is, he's a pseudo-intellectual in my book, and his opinion is irrelevant. He may have his Google acolytes around him, but these people themselves are also quite irrelevant. What we are doing is we are trying to establish a narrative of truth. As concerned Iranians, we do not wish the kind of debacle to visit Iran that visited Syria, Libya, and the rest of the Arab Muslim world over the last 10, 15 years. This debacle that was orchestrated by the likes of, not necessarily personally by Mehdi Khalaji himself, but his colleagues in this Washington Institute of Neuropolicy, these are war criminals. These people are people who are responsible for tearing the lives of millions of people apart. And now they are rallying behind the Baha'is for obviously this attempt at regime change in Iran. My message to all of you clowns, and you are clowns, is that, we are going to put out a lot more information out there. And let me also add the following. I am calling out Abbas Amanat, Yale professor Abbas Amanat. I am calling him out officially for a public, eye-to-eye debate with myself in a forum where he and his puppeteers do not call the shots and do not set the agenda. I want to talk to him about this latest screed, ridiculous book of his that he published from Tehran to Accra, where he is just filled this book from top to bottom with utter nonsense. I mean, it's one thing with the dodgy scholarship that he got away with in Resurrection and Renewal. It's quite another thing with this latest book of his that is just complete garbage, really. But, this sort of publication is also testimony of how far down the sewer the whole discipline of Iranian studies has gone, as it has become politicized, completely politicized, where people like Amanat, who should know better, who understand, who understand the issues, who've read the text, instead of, publishing truth, critical scholarship, even if they don't agree with certain points of view, are, basically putting out complete propaganda fictions into the hands of the public and calling this scholarship. I mean, you people really ought to be ashamed of yourself. I mean, are your careers that important to you? Is your status that important to you that you are willing to publish this kind of nonsense? Anywho, I have called you out, Mr. Professor of Yale University, Abbas Amanat. I would like to debate you publicly, one-on-one, about this nonsense that you have written about Sopa Azal in this book of yours. And if you ignore me, then that is basically an accession of your part that I have the upper hand and that you have no answer for any of the arguments that I have been putting out there. Just remember, Dennis McEwen reviewed your book, and even though he gave you accolades, I'm talking about Resurrection and Renewal, he also underscored that there is a streak of intellectual dishonesty that runs through the entirety of that book. Now, since we have both your dissertation, your Oxford 1981 dissertation in hand, and also Resurrection and Renewal, we know that there is a difference between this dissertation and the published version of Resurrection and Renewal. You yourself were demonized by this Baha'i cult for over a decade. I was witness to it. I was there. I saw it. I got into all kinds of fights with the Baha'i administration because of you and because of your book, Resurrection and Renewal, and I defended you at the time. What has happened in intervening years is all because it is all due to politics. It's all because of career opportunism. That is all what this is about. The issue is that you are bringing down your profession. You're bringing down the discipline. You're bringing down history by writing the kind of nonsense that you write. And that also goes for that little article of yours in the Encyclopedia Iranica about Yahya Dolatabadi. You really ought to be ashamed of yourself, really. So I am calling you out officially, Professor Amanat, for a debate with me in a neutral forum where you don't control the agenda, okay? We will have however long you want, 1 hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever you want. We will talk about these issues because what you are doing is a disservice and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Your father was a great man. I deeply, deeply admired your late father, Musa Amanat. He was a great man, a man with utmost intellectual honesty about everything that he did. But unfortunately, I cannot say the same about you. So there you have it. La hawla wa la quwwa illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. No power and no strength is there save in God, the high, the mighty.